You're saying, oh my goodness, what's going on? Why are my emotions taking over? Let me first calm down my nerves and then respond consciously as opposed to reacting. How many times have you reacted only to say later, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I didn't say that. But when you take that pause, you empower yourself to reply, not react consciously, allowing you to control the situation a lot better. I always say that we're like for anyone who rides horses, but even if you don't, we as an individual are like the horse and the horseman. In general, as we're walking through life, we're the horseman. We control the horse. We say, go left, go right, go faster, stop, jump. But when our emotions go wild and they start taking over, we become the horse. And once you become the horse, you have no control over which direction it's going to be going. So again, I encourage you, take a pause, scan your body, feel your emotions, and wait till you respond, because you can now respond consciously. And so as an exercise right now, just for 30 seconds, I want you to just close your eyes and scan your body. What are you feeling right now? Maybe you have some stiffness somewhere. Maybe you have some excitement at some part of your body. Maybe through these words, your mind is thinking right now. But just scan your body from head to toe. What are you feeling, both on an emotional and physical level? I'll just give you a few seconds to do that. Wonderful. So this is a great tool you can use every time you feel things are going out of control, where you're going and becoming the horse. It's a great technique to become the horseman once again. And when I say horseman, please, for all the ladies there, I'm not saying this is only for the men. It's just a general term used for any person. So it's for anyone, right? So here's a quote that I love that I want to share from Alexi L. Energy is contagious, positive and negative alike. I will forever be mindful of what and who I am allowing into my space. So just think about that, and I want you to keep that in the back of your mind as we go through the presentation. Now, I want to share one little story before I continue. One of the relationships, sometimes you think a relationship is just going fine, but things are a little off and you can't quite tell why, because there's no problem. And this is the relationship that I had with my wife. Things were good. Our relationship was great, but still we were distancing and we didn't understand why. And then I came across this concept and it really blew my mind. So if it's the power of the 1 degree shift. So if you imagine the circle, as you can see on the diagram, at the very center of the circle or very near to it, a 1 degree shift does not seem like a lot. But over time, that shift just gets wider and wider and wider. And just to put things in perspective, if you're aiming for the moon with a rocket and you miss it by 1 degree, you end up missing the moon by over 4,000 miles. And that's almost twice the diameter of the moon. Imagine a 1 degree shift means you can miss the moon completely. And so over time, our marriage kept going further and further apart. And we didn't understand why. And it seemed like we were really distant. So I encourage all of you that, even if you say, oh yeah, it's just something small. No, something small can become really large over time. So let me show you some techniques that we used to bring us closer together. The first one, which I want to talk about, is acceptance versus expectations. How much are you accepting of all the people around you? Right? So here's one thing though. Everyone tells me, Sahil, do you really have no expectations? And I say, no, I do. Right? Because I have one expectation of everyone in society, and that is to honor everyone with trust and respect. That's the only expectation I have of each and every member, of all of you, of anyone that I meet, whether it's a stranger or someone significant in my life. It's just trust and respect. Imagine how amazing the world would be if everyone just trusted and respected each other. And rather than looking at the differences between each other, they accepted each person for who they were. And there is one more expectation I have, but that's in the workplace only. If I hire you to be a salesperson, I expect you to be a salesperson and not an accountant. So my expectation is of the job profile for which you have completed. So now that we've concluded the two expectations that I have, let's talk about acceptance. I love using my wife as an example just because, it makes it so much more real. Every now and again, she would tell me, Sahil, you have chicken legs. So, for any of you that have not heard that term, that means that your calf muscles are really thin, okay? And it means that your legs look really thin, yeah? and hence chicken legs. And it would bother me. And then I said to myself, you know what? Sometimes I'm saying these kind of things to her. And if this bothers me so much, I can only imagine that anything that I say and have expectations on her about her body in this example will be hurting her as well. And that's when I said, oh my goodness, we are all beautiful creatures. Each and every one of us is a beautiful soul. Why are we so fixated on the physical appearance and wanting to thrive for, perfection? I know people that once you start by changing something, once you so-called fix it, then you need to get onto the next thing. I've been told my ears are small, my nose is big. Now, what am I going to do? I'm going to make my ears bigger, do a nose job. Then next, I'm going to find something else. Oh, my teeth. And then I'll say, oh, now this is a little bigger. This should be a little smaller. This should be longer. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. And expectations, my dear friends, is putting a lot of pressure on the other person as well. And if you look at, and again, I like to use personal examples. If you look at, a parent-child relationship, how many expectations do the parents have of the child to perform certain duties for them, and vice versa? And that expectation just puts a lot of pressure. But how about just saying, you know what, I accept the other person for who they are? Because I can say with certainty, I'm not perfect. I've done a lot of wrong. I've made mistakes, and that's okay. And if the other person's doing it as well, that's fine. So how much are you expecting from everything around you? And how much pressure is that putting on them? And how much disappointment is that leading to you? Right? Because every time you expect and they don't do what you expect, it also puts disappointment in you. So it's not only about the other person, it's also about you. You're setting yourself up for failure because no one, I repeat, no one can meet all your expectations. I want to share this passage from Khalil Gibran. And if everyone who's married in this group, you'll appreciate this. And I'm just going to change the slide because I don't want anyone to read it while I speak. We always used to do everything together. I expected that if I went somewhere, my wife should come with me. If she went somewhere, I was expected to go with her. Perhaps it was a movie that I did not want to watch. Perhaps it was visiting friends that the other person did not want to meet. It's almost like after marriage, we were joined together as one. But guess what? We're not one person. We're two. We were always two. We always will be two. And if one person doesn't want to do something, why are we expecting and forcing them to do it? And so I came across this passage from Khalil Gibran, and I want to read it out to you. Give your hearts, but not into each other's keeping. For only the hand of life can contain your hearts, and stand together yet not too near together, for the pillars of a temple stand apart, and the oak tree and cypress grow not in each other's shadow. So, everyone is a beautiful soul that's on their own path and journey. So it's a very dear friend's 15th anniversary, and I'm a very punctual individual. And so I told my wife, sweetheart, we have to leave at 8 p.m. in order to be there on time. 7:55, it's very clear that she's not going to be ready by 8 p.m. So I went to her and I said, sweetheart, take your time. I can't wait to see how beautiful you look when you get to the event. I'm going to leave now. I'll see you there when you arrive. Now, mind you, we've had this conversation that we don't need to do everything together, because if I had that conversation otherwise, it could turn out to be quite a disaster. So I go there. I'm happy. I'm on time. She comes about half an hour, 45 minutes later, looking stunning as ever. And we have a wonderful evening together. Now, if you rewind 2 years before I came across my dear friend Khalil Gibran, I would have been like this, looking at the watch, probably saying things that I should not have said, reacting, right? Not responding consciously. She would then react because she's feeling the pressure of the expectation and she's not enjoying it. So she's reacting. All of a sudden, we're saying things to each other that we should never have said. We go to the event looking at opposite sides of the window in the taxi because we're so annoyed at one another and just don't want to be in each other's presence. We get to the event, we have somewhat of a good time. We go home, it's a terrible evening. All because of the high expectations we had of each other versus accepting each other for who we are and being okay that we don't have to do everything together. Does this question sound familiar? Yeah? Why can't they change? Let me tell you something. My parents, bless them, they've been married for 40 plus years. I still hear them say, why can't he change? Why can't she change? I said, listen, after 40 years, if the person hasn't changed, do you really think they're going to change now? If you're saying, why can't they change? That means you have not accepted the other person for who they are. You still have those expectations, and it will continue to lead to disappointment. The second concept, never assume. So I came across, and I don't really like to use foul language, but it is what it is. Assume, I heard, stands for you're making an ass, so that's the ASS, out of you, the letter U, and me, right? That's what assume stands for. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that, wow, this is actually so true. Because when I assume, what am I doing? I'm filling in the blanks. I'm filling in the blanks based on my past experience or things that I have learned through my knowledge. Right? I repeat, I'm filling in the blanks with things from my past experience or things that I have read or heard about through my knowledge. Now, does that mean you're going to be wrong? No, you might be partially right. But ask me something. Tell me something. Are you willing to risk a relationship by being partially right? Wouldn't you like to be certain? And if you are looking to be certain, why don't you just ask the question? Why are you listening to the voice in here? Listen to the other person, ask questions. My wife always tells me now, she goes, Sahil, you ask so many questions. I say, sweetheart, it's because this relationship is so precious to me. I do not want to assume. And I'd rather ask you 3 more questions and be certain. And she's like, you should know. You should know me by now. I said, if every relationship would be a miracle if the spouse knew what the other was thinking all the time. But that's not reality. So I'm always asking questions. I'll give you a simple example. And for some of you who've heard me before, you've heard this one before as well. I'm running along the beach and you're running in the opposite direction. I wave to you, hello, good morning, and you don't acknowledge me at all. Now, what's going through my head? A lot of beeps. Yeah, I say beeps because, those are foul language, right? Beep, beep, beep. That's what I'm thinking. And then next time we meet at a party, at a social event, you come up to me, big smile. Hey, Sahil, how are you? And I just give a very cold hello. And now you have beep, 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 beep going on in your head. Yeah, all these censored words. And the third time we meet, we don't even acknowledge each other. Imagine. Both of us assumed and filled in the blanks, and now our relationship is over. All I had to do when you ran across me and didn't ask was to call you up and say, hey, is everything okay? It's unlike you to, not say hello. And maybe the other person says, I just got fired today. Maybe the other person says, I'm just going through such a tough time. So I'm so sorry, I just didn't see you. And that you reached out. Instead of breaking, you reached out your hand and you started to bond and bring each other closer. And the same way at the event, they could have called you and said, hey, they could have called me and said, hey, Sahil, what's going on? But no one decided to put in the effort. And instead, they took the easy route, which was to assume by filling in the blanks. And that slowly made the relationship grow further and further and further apart. So ask yourself, which relationship are you assuming with that is being affected? The one thing about assumptions that has made it even harder today is everyone, because of the advancement of technology, loves sending messages on text, WhatsApp, emails. Yeah. I mean, my wife is, when she's upset at me and she sends me something, I purposely do not respond with anything except, sweetheart, I know this is important. I do not want to have this conversation on text message because I value our relationship too much. As soon as I get home, I will ensure that I give you my full attention to discuss anything that you want. Okay? First of all, in the moment, it's heated, right? So at least later, things have calmed down a little bit and we can have a conversation that's more responsive rather than reacting. And let me tell you why I say this. This 7-word sentence, I never said she stole my money. Depending on which word you emphasize, it has a different meaning. Imagine this 7-word sentence has 7 different meanings depending on which word you emphasize. Now, if I sent such a message to a loved one and they emphasized the word that was different from the one that I wished them to emphasize, it can have a complete different meaning. So the next time you send out a message that is very, very, very important because there's some strain, remember, they may not read it in the way that you wrote it. And are you willing to take that chance? I certainly am not. Overcoming confrontational conversations. So this is a big one for me. My whole life, I did this. I avoided confrontational conversations. At least that's what I thought it was in my head because I was a people pleaser. I wanted to always please other people and be accepted by them. So I was always doing for others, but that left me in a very dark place. I have no regrets. I learned from this. And thanks to this realization, I'm also doing what I do now, which is what I enjoy thoroughly. But let me just share with you certain things that are very, very important. How are you entering such a conversation where you know it's going to be difficult, whether it's with a loved one, with a colleague? Are you entering with fear? Are you entering with anger? Are you entering with resentment? Because that's certainly how I used to enter certain conversations. But let me ask you this. If you enter a conversation with a negative state of mind, how do you expect to reach a positive outcome? Again, if you enter a conversation with a negative frame of mind, how do you expect to reach a positive outcome? How about entering the conversation with love, with compassion, with empathy? And if you're not able to enter with a positive state of being, it's not the right time to enter. Wait till you can get to that stage and then start the conversation. The second, which I wish to highlight, is, are you clear on what outcome you wish to achieve? Are you clear what outcome you wish to achieve? Because if you're entering that conversation without clarity on the outcome, it's like walking into a dense forest and you look around and you're like, okay, where am I going? I have no idea. You have to be very sure what you want as the outcome, and I would even encourage you to communicate the same. And next, build a framework. Co-create a framework. Now what do I mean by that? And I say co-create because if you just say, this is what we should be doing, the other person may not accept that. But if you create something together, you have buy-in from the other person. So I'll give you an example with my wife. We've decided that anytime we want to have one of those, we want to have what someone may define as a challenging conversation. We agree that we won't have our phones or distractions near us. We'll make sure that there's ample time given. And then we agree on some ground rules by creating a safe space so that the other person can open up without judgment. We create a safe space so that the other person feels they can open up without being judged. And we understand each other's perspective. And that's why I've put up this slide, because what do you see as the number? You see a 6. But if you're standing in front of me and we're facing each other, if I draw this 6 on the ground, you see a 9. Now, as a husband and wife, we can keep arguing with each other. That's a 6, that's a 9, that's a 6, that's a 9. All we had to do was say, you know what? I'm going to understand this from the other person's perspective. Let me see it from their point of view. If you truly want to grow stronger and closer to those loved ones, to your colleagues, and have stronger relationships, you have to start seeing it from their perspective too. Because guess what? I can tell you with 100% certainty, you do not have the absolute point of view. Neither do I, neither does anyone in the world. There's multiple viewpoints to absolutely everything. One viewpoint of my phone. Another viewpoint. If I showed you just this, you may just think it's a stick. You may not even know it's a mobile phone. Right? Clearly a mobile phone. Could be lots of different things. So there's multiple viewpoints to absolutely everything. So ask yourself, next time you're in a conversation, are you in a space which is, quiet and no distractions? Are you in a space where, are you allowing the other person to speak freely? Because if you have expectations and if you're getting angry on everything, they're not going to open up to you. And that's where that 1 degree shift kicks in and it just gets further and further apart. Whenever people do say something that upsets you, I always say, just breathe. Yeah, I know you guys do breath work in your morning routine and you see how powerful it is. And a great technique of breathing that I love is box breathing. You know, for all of you that aren't aware, and or just as a reminder, box breathing is you breathe in for 3 seconds, you hold for 3 seconds, you breathe out for 3 seconds, you hold for 3 seconds. I'm saying 3, but that could be 2, it could be 4, whatever that number is for you. Just make sure it's a box. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. And keep that number consistent. It's a great way just to calm the temperament before you continue. And as we approach the end, I want to just highlight a great concept of feed forward. You know, for any of you that have heard of Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, this is a concept that he's come up with that I just absolutely love. And many times when we meet someone, you know, whether it's a colleague, and maybe this happens more in the workplace, it's you want feedback, right? Everyone's asking about feedback. But feedback sometimes can hurt because you take it personally. If I tell you you did not do so good in that meeting because of the, you might go like this and you become defensive and all sorts of things happen. But feed forward allows you to understand how you can be better at something. So let me just explain the rules, the ground rules of feed forward. How can I be a better listener? Not was I a good listener in the meeting? How you already know, you know your shortcomings. How can I be a better listener? How can I be a better speaker? Now I've invited you to share how I can improve on what I do. And as I listen to you, I'm not allowed to react. If I'm not clear on something, I can ask a clarifying question, but I'm not allowed to react. I'm not allowed to, give any sort of response. Okay? I just have to listen. And at the end of it, I say, thank you. And then I can choose which one I want to take into my life. And if you're really good at this and you want to really improve, you ask them again the next month or the next after a fortnight, how can I be a better listener? You don't ask, how did I do? Because that's feedback again. You just ask them, how can I be a better listener? Or whatever it is. Now, it works really well in the workplace, but this works amazing for relationships as well. When was the last time you asked your spouse, how can I be a better husband or wife? When was the last time you asked your children, how can I be a better parent? Or asked your parents, how can I be a better child? It is so powerful. It is so powerful. Now, word of caution, when I asked my parents, how can I be a better child? They had a laundry list that was so long. But I did not react. I just listened because it was coming from a place of love. Right? It was coming from a place of love. Your spouse, your child, your parents, they're not your enemy. It's coming from a place of love. And even though you may not like what they have to hear, perhaps you do need to hear it. So just listen to what they say thank you, start applying those things, and watch how that relationship grows and how you become a better person. So I always love, before we get into Q&A, to give homework. Just as you were told earlier today to send out a message to just one person for the 5 a.m. club so that they too can experience this wonderful community. I ask you, identify 3 people in your life where the relationship has slowly started to get strained or distant, or maybe it's already severed. And use one of the techniques that I shared with you. Never assume, overcoming confrontational conversations, expectations versus acceptance, and the bonus feed forward that I gave you. Use any of those tools to bring that relationship stronger. Because I know, you already know who those people are. It's time. And I would say, don't say I'm going to do it one day. It's still early in the morning. Make this day one and contact one person today. It's a lovely time of the year. People are in festive moods. You couldn't have asked for a better day to really break whatever clutter is between you and that other person and bring it closer together. Thank you, everyone. I'm open to questions. And it was such a pleasure and honor to present to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sahil. No matter which part of the world you are in, no matter which season we are in, you always make that miracle happen. I know that last time when you spoke, you are not in Dubai. It was an early morning. Then another time it was a late evening, and you still logged in and you exactly came with the same energy. Thanks for such a soulful conversation. I wouldn't call it a speech. I wouldn't call it anything else. It was such a soulful conversation. Uh, First of all, I would like to say thank you so much and God bless you and lots of love from the platform and from the whole community to you. Of course, we are open to any questions, and I would request people to raise your hands and you can ask your questions.
Okay, Nizar sir raised hand. Yeah, Nizar sir, go ahead.
Am I audible? Sahil, a wonderful morning, and you spoke from the heart, and the way you have presented it, I mean, great. Hats off to you. I mean, your temperament, your calm, cool, composed posture, excellent, excellent. I've been practicing this observe, 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 and listen, listen, and listen for some time, and a tremendous improvement. But at times, I feel that, you know, are you taken for granted by some of the people? So would you like to highlight on this point? And second point was, have you ever done that course on emerging from the future leadership course? Because some of the things which you have quoted in this speech, I could relate to that course. Leadership from the emerging future. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for asking. So I'll answer the second question first because it's a very short answer. I have not done the course. I'd love to hear more about it, but I have not done this particular course. Coming to the first question, as an observer and a listener, will people or are people taking you for granted? The one thing that I realize is that I can't change the behavior of other people. And for sure, sometimes people say, "Oh, you're being nice. You practice ahimsa, and you're always generous to people, and you're nice to people, and people will take advantage." I'm fine with that, but if something happens which is disrupting or causing friction in me, I will have that conversation with whoever it is, and I will use some of these techniques that I've shared with you today to have that conversation. If someone is just taking advantage of my generosity and it's not affecting me, that's okay. It's their karma. But before, I used to avoid having those conversations, and that's the key point that I want to make in this. Right? If something really bothered me, because I was, there's fear of confrontation. There was even fear of making decisions because I was shunning away from confrontation. I keep saying confrontation because that plays a really big part in my life. I did everything to stay away from it, and I was always pleasing people, and they took advantage of it. And when I say took advantage, that could be family members too who love me because they see that Sahil always tips on our side. So we'll push the right buttons, and then he'll come onto our side. Whether it was my parents who expected something of me, and when they see that I'm on the fence going like this, they would use whatever techniques to bring me to their side. It was never done to hurt me, but it was to get what they wanted, for example. Now that's expectations. And before I just did it because I wanted to please. But now I know who I am. I know what I'm here to do. And now I stay my ground. But more importantly, I stay consistent. whatever people do to me or say to me, it could also be because of certain things that are going on in their life. But if someone treats me bad, will I treat them bad? No, because that changes who I am. I will continue to treat everyone with trust and respect. But again, if someone is constantly stepping over me and it's affecting me, I will have that conversation where I create a safe space. I open up, I understand their perspective, I share mine, and we see where it leads. And sometimes relationships end. There are people who haven't accepted me for who I am because I've changed my lifestyle. I'm not going out as much. I'm waking up early because I love waking up early in the morning, right? I have my personal 5 a.m. club, meaning it's not with other people. It's just me, myself, and I, but I'm doing it every single morning. And so some people said, oh, you don't come with us anymore, this, that. They haven't accepted me. It's okay. It's okay. They live a different life. I live a different life. Perhaps our paths will cross one day again. But at this moment in life, maybe we're just not meant to meet. And that's when you go back to the observer, right? You're just saying that perhaps this is my fate. I'm not going to question it. Sorry, I gave you a very long-winded answer, but I hope I was able to give you some nuggets or answer it.
Very nicely put, Sahil. I've also been used to the personal front, the societal, the family front, but at times the problem comes on the objectives as far as the organization is concerned. That is where I felt that. Rest of the place I'm absolutely fine. But when the organizational thing matters, I feel that I have to put a little pressure because it is not me or us that matters. It is organized. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Nazasa. I can see Velapan Pillai raised hand neck. Please accept the prompt. Yeah.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
Am I audible? Okay.
Yes,
Very good
please
morning to
go
all
ahead.
of you. Very good morning to all of you. I am very happy that today the number of participants are large when comparing to yesterday. And I first of all appreciate all the organizers for organizing the Christmas celebration in a befitting way. Thank you, Faisal, for a motivational speech of today. Thank you all the organizers. Now, Sahil sir, I appreciate that you have given much tools for the betterment of the relationship. Some of the tools may be knowing by somebody, but they might have forgotten it, so that they can practice it, remember it, and practice it, and improve their relationship. I have no other questions to ask. Thank you for motivating and giving us tool for the happy life, family life especially. And thank you all. Thank you, sir. And we expect more from you in future also. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, I think he had responded to you by showing thumbs up and one account. So I think you got the message response from him non-verbally. Thank you so much, Sahil. Okay, I'm just going on order. The next is Kunin Shakti sir, and next is Shobna, and then Shibu. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Jayashree, and a very good morning and Merry Christmas, one and all. A quick question, Sahil. I do try to operate at higher frequency, at higher vibration of love and above. But sometimes, if I'm interacting with other individuals who are operating at the lower level, and in spite of all the attempts, all the techniques, all the tools, I consider that there is still toxicity, there is negativity. So is it okay to avoid or remove or get rid of that relationship? Thank you.
So let me answer your question in two parts. And the first one is, you used the word try, and anyone who's heard me speak before, they'll know that Every time someone mentions the word try, I always say, and I quote from Master Yoda from Star Wars. He said, "Do or do not, there is no try." So when we try, we make it okay if it doesn't work out. And so I always use this, and it's just a great tool to use in your language, in your work, in your family life, in all areas of your life. Do or do not, there is no try. But coming to the level of people, again, everybody's on their own journey, right? So am I at a higher level? Are they at a higher level? That's my perception. I may consider that I have more knowledge than, let's just say you and I are interacting, and I might think I have more knowledge than you, or you might think you have more knowledge than me, but that's just our perception of the other. Who knows in reality what it is? Maybe someone is just, for anyone who believes in the soul, maybe my soul is more uplifted than yours, and you could be my parent, right? Just because you're my parent doesn't mean you know more. It just could mean that you've had maybe fewer lives, or lives where you haven't been uplifted as much as mine has. Whatever that might be. But the point is, if someone no longer serves a purpose in your life, unless if there's a family, you have a commitment, because at the end of the day, I'm still committed to being a son. I'm still committed to being a father. That's my personal commitment. And I will do everything in that duty to ensure that I fulfill those obligations of being a son or a parent or a husband as well. But when you go on your journey of life, you will notice that other people, even though they were really good friends before, may be going on a different path. And if your paths don't intertwine anymore, slowly but surely that relationship may just distance. And you can choose to try to hold on, but then that comes to attachment, right? You're holding on, or you can just say, I need to let go. So if the person is lowering your energy levels, not raising them anymore, unless if there's a family, I wouldn't say obligation, but a commitment from your side, because you're the husband, the child, or the parent, you have to ask yourself, is this something that I could do without? And if it's a work colleague, for example, because you might say, I can't, or a family member, I can't get rid of the person, they're just there. Then the question then next becomes, have you accepted them for who they are? Wherever they are in life, that's where they are. When I started on this journey, I was accelerating at a very fast pace. And that was one of the reasons why my wife and I started to shift a little bit, because she couldn't recognize me. I was moving it so quick. And I kept trying to make her do things that I was doing because it brought so much joy in my life. But that those were, again, expectations. It was only when she accepted me for who I was and what I had become, and I accepted her for who she is, did it blossom. Because are we at the same level? No. In some areas of life, she's much higher than I am. In other areas of life, I'm much higher than she is, at least based on my perception. But that's okay. We've accepted each other for who we are. So I hope that answers your question. Shobna, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sahil, for Kunai's response. Okay, I think Shobna is not able to unmute. Okay, take it now, Shobna. Just try now. Maybe two people are trying to unmute you. Yeah, go ahead.
Sometimes the other person that we're having a difference with is not the kind of person who would like to speak about it or have a conversation. They'd rather go silent. So, so do we accept that they are different and that's how they want to deal with it? How do we deal with a situation like that? They're not the kind of person who is open to having a conversation or like be confronted. How do we go?
You can't control someone else, but you can control your actions. And, I wish I had the magic wand. And this is what I say sometimes, right? I tell the other person, I wish I had a magic wand that could read what's going on in your head, but I can't. And I don't want to assume. And the only way I'm going to know is if you open up and if you share with me. And if you're consistent with the message and you keep showing that you care about that relationship because you love the other person or you want to become closer together, at some point they will also see that by them not opening up, it's affecting the relationship. But it's a combination, right? You've accepted, but you keep trying because you don't want to assume, right? So you keep communicating. But if you just accept them and say they're going to be silent, I'm not going to say anything, that's when that 1 degree shift starts to happen. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh my God, what's happened to this relationship? We don't even recognize each other. So it's about not giving up. It's about being persistent in your communication. I don't have the magic wand. I don't know what's going on. And if I assume, it's going to be dangerous because I may assume the wrong thing. And I love you too much to do that. Work with me here. And if they don't want to do it, okay, that's fine. You don't push. Again, you accept that they at that moment in time they decided not to do it. We try again. You don't try again. You do it again. Yeah, no try. You do it again, and you do it again, again. And at some point, that nut cracks. And if they also wish to strengthen that relationship, they will open up. But if they've given up on the relationship, that's also a great way for you to know that perhaps this relationship is not going to go anywhere now. So, it takes two hands to shake, as they say.
Right. Thanks,
But you communicate what's in your head so that they are crystal clear.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shobna. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sahil, for that wonderful response.
Jayshree, you're on mute.
Sorry. Shibu, go ahead, Shibu.
All right. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas. Morning to you all. Great session, Mr. Sahil. I've got a question in the sense it revolves around ego. Now, the thing is, I'm a second generation businessman in the sense I took over, or I'm still helping my father and his business over the past few years. What happens is this, because of the difference in generation and the way things were done till now, and I come in with my set of new perspective and ideas, there's always a situation where we tend to disagree on things. So and then we come back home and so the decisions and the talk that we have in business starts affecting our relationship also. Now it's difficult to control the other person, and this is not a relation that we can just walk out of, right? But when I believe that there is something that is going to go wrong if we continue the path that we've been taking so long, and I'm still not able to take an action. Our language tends to get stronger. We think it's for the greater good of the whole family, but then at the end of the day, we regret having used the language or taken that stand. How do you handle such situations, wherein when you're dealing with your the older generation, your parents, they wouldn't listen to us, but we still need to somehow bring in a change, or for the greater good. I'm assuming a lot of things, but I hope you got my question.
Yeah, I mean, this is really about the, working in a multi-generational household, right? I mean, in terms of work. So I was smiling while you were speaking because, I have a father. We also have one business together. I do have my own business as well, but we have one business together. And we used to butt heads a lot, yeah. And we probably still do, just not as often as we used to. But I can't change him, but I can change how I wish to be. That's the only thing. Even that, we might say controlling self is a bit of an illusion, but you have a better chance of controlling self than you have of anyone else. And I still use the same things. I would ask questions. I would never assume. I would, no matter how much the conversation would go, I would not lose my temper. Under no circumstance would I lose my temper. And if I felt that my emotions were raising up, I would use the breathing technique. I mean, literally in the middle of a conversation, I would just sit there in silence and he'd be wondering like, what's going on? I said, I'm just breathing. I need to just calm down. So he can see that maybe my emotions have gone up, but he respects the fact that I'm, just taking it down. And often I tell him, I say, Dad, you're a business partner and a father. If we're no longer business partners, I can live with that. But if I'm no longer your son and you're no longer my father, I can't live with that. So whatever decision we make, please understand this comes first, which is the relationship. And the business partner comes second. Because I can find a different business partner. I don't have to do this business. But if you want me to take over the business eventually, we have to co-create. I said, maybe I don't have the best ideas, but at least understand my perspective, and I promise to understand your perspective. And I'm sure we can find something that will allow our business to go to the next level. Right? Whereas if I say, we have to do this, and he says, no, we have to do this, then it's like, he didn't like my idea. I'm going to get defensive. I'm going to fight back. That doesn't work. Now, I don't know your exact scenario. I'm sharing, I'm talking about what happened in my case. But when I highlight that the relationship is more important, I highlight that, let's co-create something. Because there's something very powerful in co-creation. You get the buy-in of the other person. If it's my idea or his idea, the other person may reject. But if it's a co-creation, we're creating it together. Maybe I don't have the best idea. Maybe you don't, but let's create something together, because I know that both of us together, we can create something magical. And just one thing as a closing, as I mentioned already, but I do want to highlight and stress it because it's super, super important. I never spoke where I reacted. I spoke consciously. I was responding. Because if I say something, it can easily trigger something and it'll get worse and worse and worse. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I still fall into those older bad habits every now and again. But if it used to happen multiple times, now it's just happening a few times. Because it's happening through awareness, right? We spoke about that in the beginning, heightened awareness. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, that helps. I mean, the takeaway is about the co-creation part, where I'll have to sit and discuss with him. It can happen with our generation, but I worked in a corporate setup, and there is expectation. But when you can't bring your dad to the table and have a discussion. But I think I'll have to start doing that. That is a key takeaway.
We use that as a block in our mind. Every single relationship is hard. Every single relationship requires effort and dedication. It's very easy to say it's a generational difference. It's a gender difference. It's a nationality difference. I mean, I can think of 1,000 excuses for any relationship if I really want to find one. But every relationship is hard. It requires investment of your love, your time, your energy. Even between you and your child, even between you and your spouse, with anyone. But if you follow a certain set of rules and you're consistent, and you say, I won't lose my temper, I will always be calm. And if I start going out of control, I'll bring it back through breath. I won't assume. I'll create a framework and a safe space to overcome confrontation. I will have a heightened state of awareness. All of a sudden, you'll just watch all relationships around you improve, not just the one between, yourself and your father, for example. And it's amazing. It's amazing when you even ask, I asked my dad this. He never asked me, how can I be a better father? And I didn't expect that of him. But I did ask him, how can I be a better son? And I realized he had a lot of stuff bottled up inside that he didn't share with me. And it was just a beautiful conversation. There were tears, there was laughter, there was a lot in that conversation. It was very powerful. because I did tell him, I said, Dad, you're my father first, and then you're my business partner. And it should never, ever be the other way around. So when anybody, when they see that you're coming from a place of love and compassion, and he's from that generation, someone, we had people, Shobana mentioned, what if the other person is not as responsive as you are? You break the ice, right? You start with the conversation. You be vulnerable. There's no ego here. Who are you trying to prove yourself to be in front of your own family and your loved ones?
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shibu, for that question. That brings the wonderful answers and the response from Shahil. Yes, relationship comes first over anything or the other. And co-creation makes magic. I can feel that breath, Shibu. I can feel that breath. Yeah.
Yeah, you get it right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes,
these
it
are
takes
things that are
time.
obvious, but you need someone to really hit it into you.
Exactly.
Like I said, I wasn't expecting this session. We are in the mode of entrepreneurship, get increasing productivity. But when you don't have your heart in place and your mind ready, and your relationship in place, you can't even think about doing business or improving yourself as a person. So I think the order of priority should change when we come to knowing what you need for each other. Thanks a lot. Thank you, team.
True,
Appreciate the
true. Oops. Sorry. Yeah, thank you so much, Shibu. And the whole platform is the example of that relationship comes first over the business. So co-creation is creating a magic out here as well. So now next to Giri, the waterman. Giri ji, yes, go ahead.
I hope Sahil is not getting late. Sahil, I know that we are overshooted by more than 40 minutes now. Sahil, just want to know, is it fine?
My kids haven't woken up yet, all excited to open the presents under the tree, so I'm okay to go.
Oh, thank you so much, Sahil.
Santosh, can I speak now or whether they're finished?
Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Santosh, and thank you, Shakil Mehta. Actually, the session is very nice, and you have given so many inputs, that insights to the family, and there are a number of takeaways. But I can take two things. One thing you told about how can I be a better father of my children or my friend like that. If I would ask that question, how can I start? Because when I ask this question, they will ask us, hey, yesterday you were normal, what happened to you, like that. So I think this is a startup question. Actually, I need which environment is better for me. And also you told about that 6 or 9 concept is also very nice. Thank you, Shakil Mehta. Take care.
So great question. You want to make sure that the environment is such where someone can open up, right? So if you're going to ask in a public setting, for example, someone may not feel comfortable. So you have to ensure that you're in a private setting where someone can speak freely. This is absolutely key. And if you get asked that question, where did this come from? I came across this concept in my 5 a.m. club session. And it really resonated with me. And I was thinking, even though we have something great, I want it to be greater. Even though we have something amazing, I want it to be more amazing. And so I really felt like asking this question. Just keep it pure. We don't have to overthink it. Speak the truth. And that is the truth. You heard it, it resonated with you, and you asked it. Keep it simple.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Giriji, for that. And you made Sahil laugh, since some time. So our waterman does that. Everybody, thank you so much for that lighter note. And we have a question in the chat before I go to Taki. I see you raising hand, Taki. I have a question in the chat, if I can read it for you, Sahil. 1 second. So Anu is asking, usually it is said that if one gets hurt easily, one has a weak mind. But if someone has said or did something harsh in the past that doesn't go from memory, how does one overcome and move forward?
Wow. So this is all on forgiveness. Yeah, this is the topic of forgiveness. Now, forgiveness in itself is a huge is a huge topic. I don't know if I have the time to go through the entire question, but what I will do is I'll give you something. I want to give you a nugget, right? And hopefully this will at least help you on this journey. But it is forgiveness that we're talking about. The key here is it's not about them, it's about you. Right? Because many times people say, oh, how can I, forgive? They did this, they did that, blah, 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 blah. But it's not about them. This is about you. Because if you don't let go, that negative emotion is circling inside of you. And emotion stands for energy in motion. And that energy is it's blocked inside of you. And it's causing challenges in both your physical and mental self. So by holding on to it, you're actually hurting yourself. And it's only when you forgive and let go. Again, it's about your own process. It's not about them. When you forgive and let go, you release that energy and you don't let it affect you anymore. Because they say that time heals, but time does not heal. Time just suppresses. Yeah, time does not heal, time suppresses. Because every now and again that trigger comes, right? You see a photograph, poof, the trigger. You hear a song, trigger. Somebody says something, trigger. So until you don't deal with it, it's going to keep coming back. So, I'm sorry to give you a short answer. I'd love to talk more, but if I start forgiveness, it's half an hour. It's a very big topic. But I wanted to give you at least a nugget, a golden nugget that, look, it's not about them, it's about you.
Yeah, thank you, Sahil. I hope it helps. Anu, she has replied. So yeah, it's not about them, it's about you. Then in any relationship, if you just start thinking that way, then we get the answer. And Taki, are you going to ask the question? Otherwise, we'll move forward for the vote of thanks and we can say that we're running out of time. Yes? No?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sahil, for an insightful session. And I think you are late, still you are here. Thank you for that also. I just want to add that you said about the relation between the business and, we are doing business with our father or something like that. In the same scenario, we have an boss in the scenario, a boss and who like to control and he thinks the generation is better. His generation is better and the new one is spoiled already and the technology also worst. So that mindset, we are dealing with him. So we just accept that way. We are smiling inside and we are going forward. So anything to add in that relation? Or then we need to keep that way or something to improve with it is in a both relation. So what you said in that?
Great. So look, I don't want to assume this, but if you've had a conversation, have you had the conversation already about your perspective and how you feel? And if you have, then or if you haven't, the one thing I say is that actions speak louder than words, right? So if you feel something can be done in a better way, show it. Sometimes people just don't know. And if you have had the conversation and you've showed and it's still not working out, maybe that's not the right place for you, right? So I don't know where you are in the communication with this particular boss that you called, but it depends what you've done so far. But either have that open conversation, show them. I remember one of my mentors, he always used to tell me, show me, don't tell me. And then the third one is, if all fails and it doesn't bring you joy, then maybe that's not the right environment for you. Because someone doesn't appreciate the wonderful person that you are, we need to find a place where they can.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sahil. Hope that clears the key. Yeah, there is only Sakshi is raising hand. This will be the last question, participants, because of the time which we have with Sahil. Yeah, go ahead. Sakshi, sorry, we cannot hear you.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes. Go ahead. Now you're on.
Yeah. First of all, Merry Christmas to all of you all. And wonderful session we had, Sahil. It was quite enlightening. Now, if you take it in a humorous manner or whatever, I did go and ask my daughter, see, what we spoke right now, what you spoke right now was about colleagues and parents and your life partner. I'm talking about younger generation. I went and spoke to my daughter that how can I be a better mom? Like this idea came from the book what I'm reading, The 5 Love Languages of Teenagers by Gary Chapman. In that he also suggested the same. So one fine day I went and I told him, okay, I want to be a better mom. Maybe I'm trying my level best, but still I want to improve on myself. So she was a little taken back, but then she grabbed the opportunity and she gave me a long list that you shouldn't be interfering. You should let me wear what I want to wear. You should not stop me from late nights and all that. So sometimes it backfires when you go all out and you are like all willing to try your level best. So how do you handle this? I mean, I tried my level best to tell her, to convince her that this is not all about your freedom or, this all certain guidelines or restrictions are there for your own good. So she tries to understand that. But what I mean to say is, it's not that everything we can fulfill what is expected out of us. So how do you put it across to a younger generation who feels that they are forbidden from doing certain things, or they are being imposed with a lot of restrictions?
Great question. So look, it's when you ask this question, you have to be ready for whatever comes its way, right? But it's not that you don't ask just because when I asked this to my parents, I got a laundry list, which I shared. Now you ask any generation or someone, they may have it, but that's been bottled up. So that's, you invite them to have conversations around it. How about co-creating things? How about agreeing on certain family values? So when you are speaking with your children, I mean, one thing that my children are 7 and 9, soon to be 9. And one of the things we're starting to do is create family values. Now, I understand that that's not the same age and they might not be having the same questions that your daughter just asked or shared with you. But how about co-creating the family values with them? What are our family values? Is it okay to do certain things? And if we don't do it, what are the consequences? When I tell my children, do this, do this, do this, they rebel. It's not because they're children. You tell anyone, do this, do this, do this, they rebel. Right? It's not just children. So now I ask them, I say, okay, what is considered bad behavior? If you hit one another, is that considered bad behavior? Yes. Okay. I'm getting it from them. I'm asking the questions and I'm getting it from them. They say, okay, what are the consequences if that happens? And then they'll come up with something. I said, is that really a consequence? That sounds too easy. You can easily manage that. Okay, we won't, have any desserts for the weekend. That sounds like a consequence. Okay, so can we agree on that? Yes. So we co-created. So I invite you to co-create with your daughter what the family values are. And it's not like a one conversation. It might take weeks, it might take months, because you're creating. It's something that, the first creation may not be so good, but you co-create. But you say that, let's do something, let's do it together. Yes, I'm your parent, and but let me share my perspective. I'd love to hear your perspective, but I accept you for who you are. But this is the reason why coming, beyond a certain time doesn't work with me. So let's fix a time. I remember when I was living with my sister, I would tell her when she went out, I said, "What time are you coming home?" And she's like, "I don't have to tell you, you're not my parent." And I said, "Listen, it's not about being the parent. I just want to, you give me a number. I asked you, right? I didn't tell you be home by this time. I asked you, give me a number. But whatever number you give me, all hell will break loose if you come even 1 minute after that. So you think about it. You give me a number, I'll accept it, whatever that number is." Now, I'm not suggesting you use the same words or anything, but co-create something. Because if you constantly tell that person what to do, they're going to rebel. And let's not use the illusion that that person is younger than you. Their body is younger than your body, but that soul could be much more advanced or could be behind. We have no idea. So co-create, trust and respect, and watch the magic happen. And thank you for bringing up the 5 love languages. It's a great tool. I encourage everyone to do the 5 love language test, understand what your love language is, and also that of the people that you care about, especially at the time of Christmas. Because when their gift is if they want time and you give them something else, they may not appreciate it as much. So, understand what love language they have and focus in on that. So thank you for bringing that up as well. I hope that answers your question. Co-create.
Yes, Sahil. Yeah, partly satisfied with the answer. And I would also like to add that peer pressure is too high for them to stick to their words. That's what is happening all around, not only with my daughter, but with other children as well. She's a teenager. She is 18 now. And yes, it's an amazing book, The 5 Love Languages of Teenagers by Gary Chapman. It's beautiful. It gives me a lot of insights about their life, their thinking, everything. Thank you.
Let me ask you, since she's 18, is she going to university?
Yes, she's in college, 12th standard.
Okay, and after she finishes, is she going to continue to stay here or is she going to travel for further studies?
No, she'll be here.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, she'll be here. I'm in Mumbai. We have a lot of universities, colleges over here. So she'll be joining any one of them.
Excellent.
Okay. Thank you.
I smile because I always say that, remember we were that age once as well,
Yes, absolutely. Agreed. Absolutely.
and I can say that I've done a lot of crazy things, and if the child ends up doing some similar things, that's their journey. That's but we have to remember we were there once too.
Right, certainly. Thank you very much.
I think that clears her questions. We were there at certain times too, and if we just understand what is their love language, it's even more beneficial to communicate to them. Maybe we are not communicating to them, rather we were just saying or telling to them so far. So for communication, even we need to understand the love language, which is on the higher side. Thank you so much, Sahil Metha, for the wonderful, wonderful session today. And thank you for taking time to answer all the questions, what our friends were asking, and the amount of the calmness, the composed nature you are. Whenever you come to this platform, we always love you. And decluttering is one of the sessions still I remember. And you give that, that vibes to everybody.